What's going on, guys? The Crypto Lark here. Today we're going to be doing our Bitcoin news roundup, talking about all of the latest news in Bitcoin land. Before we get into that, quick shout out as always to everyone who has been hitting that like button, and of course everybody who has been subscribing to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you hit that button down below to stay up to date with all of the latest in the crypto space. Furthermore, this is of course not professional financial advice. This is just a dude talking about cryptocurrencies on the internet. Let's get into it. Bitcoin, $10,991.90. That is, of course, about $8,000 and some change, down on recent highs. There has been a lot of FUD in the market recently. Bitcoin, though, still up massively on the year. You got to keep that in perspective, guys. We did have a huge run-up. A retraction was to be expected. If you look at where the Bitcoin market is, a lot of the Bitcoin market is USD Tether. Now, Bitfinex has it listed as USD, but that's USD Tether as well. Now, that being said, if you see that about 20% of the Bitcoin transactions are to USDT, you realize there's quite a systemic risk to the Bitcoin markets if USDT does prove in the end to not be quite what they say it is. More on that in a future video, guys. But nevertheless, you see a lot of people are looking for that safe haven of stable cryptocurrency, which is of course USDT, in these times of a down market. On to our first story of the day, Nostradamus. Apparently, according to some, Nostradamus predicted Bitcoin. I know. Take that with a grain of salt, guys. But looking back through some of his previous writings, of course, people say that, well, maybe he was predicting the new gold will be mined from lightning. Interesting times. Perhaps Elon Musk is actually Nostradamus, and Nostradamus is actually Satoshi Nakamoto. Da da da! In your Bitcoin fork of the week, Bitcoin Atom coming up soon. Official date is still to be announced, of course. They are looking to do atomic swaps, and they're also looking to have a hybrid model, proof of work, proof of stake. This adds to the seemingly unending list of Bitcoin forks. So many Bitcoin forks. Bitcoin pizza, really? Is that a thing? Did that happen? Holy cow. Now, some of the most exciting forks that are underway at the moment are Bitcoin Private and Bitcoin Hush. So if you haven't had a look into those yet, those are the most promising of the forks that are coming up. If you want to take advantage of those when those happen, go ahead and check out the sites and do a little bit of research on those. We're at 24 forks right now. I'm sure we will be seeing many more by the end of the year. At some point, I hope somebody puts together some kind of compiler where you can just transact your Bitcoin one time to a secure wallet or to maybe some exchange, and they'll just credit you all of your Bitcoin fork coins. We can dream, can't we? Speaking of dreaming, SegWit. 20% dominance. Apparently local Bitcoins has switched over to using SegWit wallets, which is fantastic. Lightning Network, of course, is increasing in number of nodes as well. Obviously, we're still waiting for some big players to switch over to using SegWit Bitcoin addresses. Coinbase, many of the major exchanges as well. People like Bittrex need to get on board with this. Not to mention, of course, a lot of the wallet services. Exodus, we're looking at you. They do need to get on board so we can actually see SegWit being used more and more. That will help bring down transaction fees and, of course, will enable the usage of Lightning Network moving forward. France and Germany are going to make a joint Bitcoin regulation proposal at the G20 summit next month. Now look, currently Monsieur Bitcoin over in France is Bruno Le Maire. He has been openly critical of Bitcoin. He is helping to put this legislation together. Hopefully we see some common sense proposals put forward. I would be very surprised to see Germany and France coming down and saying something like, we're going to ban Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies. I really don't think that those two very advanced economies, very open-minded economies, would want to put themselves out of the technological revolution of the future. But we might see some more common sense legislation coming in. No more anonymous exchange users, for example, taxation laws, etc., etc. I think at the end of the day, most countries just want to get the taxes, guys. Make of what you will. Now, echoing the calls for that, everybody's least favorite financial institution, the IMF, adding on to the calls for global Bitcoin regulation. Over in South Korea, in the wake of the recent FUD coming out of there, South Korean officials have been told to declare their crypto investments. Not to mention, of course, that South Korean exchanges are going to be hit with massive tax bills. And this article goes on to talk about how BitThumb alone might be on for about $60 million worth of taxes to be paid. Well, that's a lot of taxes, but keeping it real, if they're paying $60 million in taxes, they literally have like a swimming pool full of like $100 notes that they're swimming around in like Scrooge McDuck. They've made so much money. Pay your taxes, guys. Okay. Over in Portugal, Bank Santander has retracted its threats and will now be accepting Bitcoin transactions. They were saying, well, it's not a legal financial instrument, etc., but they have reversed their way on that, so that is nice. We have seen a few banks moving back and forth independently, which is worrying. That some are saying, well, we're going to ban people from using exchanges that, you know, sell Bitcoin. We've seen a few of those happen in the States recently. I'm glad that they retracted and didn't stick to their guns. Bitcoin laundering is less than 1% of all transactions. That's great. That's great. This is one of the most common things that they bring up about Bitcoin. It's being used to launder money. Therefore, it is evil, and it's also being used to finance terrorism and to hurt puppies. You know, so to give you some perspective on that, 2 to 5% of the global GDP is laundered every year. And they're not using Bitcoin to do that, guys. They're using big banks to do that. They're using cash money to do that. So, keeping it real, fiat is some dirty, dirty money. Bitcoin, it's got a little bit of dirt hanging around on its shoes in comparison. Over in Ukraine, there are calls for the legalization of Bitcoin. Now, Ukraine has been turning increasingly pro-Bitcoin. There's still, of course, talk about the hryvnia over in Ukraine. Of course, that is the local Ukrainian currency, as you can see here in the picture with that very serious-looking dude. So it'd be nice to see them actually make themselves into a Bitcoin paradise, if you will, over in Ukraine. Certainly, Ukraine could use a more stable currency like Bitcoin as opposed to the hryvnia. Little inside joke there for any Ukrainians listening. Anyway, I'm really enheartened to see what has been happening in Eastern Europe recently. Ukraine making very positive moves. Belarus going full, like, we're doing full crypto, man. This is going to be awesome. And of course, Russia as well, hopefully implementing some, again, common sense regulations, guys. And I know libertarianness and all this stuff within us says, oh, regulation, oh. But the reality is this is what's happening, guys. So better for governments to be on board than to not be on board and to be banning Bitcoin everywhere, without a doubt. More than half of Russians now know about Bitcoin. Nice. Nice. Of course, Russia is becoming a big player tech-wise If you look at most ICOs, they're going to have a few Russian programmers on board. Nice to know, of course, that so many Russians are getting interested in cryptocurrencies. Definitely a tech-savvy society. Now, this is a worrying story and perhaps something to keep in mind. Russian couple robbed of $100,000 worth of Bitcoin in Thailand is quite a shocking article. Apparently they were followed by some guys who said they were with Interpol, probably the Russian mafia, tied up, threatened, tortured, had everything stolen from them, separated in rooms, you know, telling the guy, we're going to kill your girlfriend or whatever. Pretty brutal stuff, guys. Obviously, hopefully they catch these people. They probably won't because, you know, corruption, what are you going to do? But this is certainly a tale to keep in mind. Keep your money on your ledger. If you're ever about to get in a hostage situation, just enter the password wrong 3 times. It'll erase your ledger, and then you just be like, I don't know, man. I don't have my 24-word passphrase on me. What am I going to do? I can't give you the money. It's locked up. That's crazy. Crazy story. Hope those guys are okay. Okay. Interesting story here as well is that if the Bitcoin bubble bursts, that Ukraine will be one of the 5 countries worst affected by this, which is very interesting. Russia will be the worst hit, which is also very interesting. Both those countries, of course, have had big problems with their own currencies in the past few years. Not surprised, of course, see so many people hopping on the Bitcoin train over there. Now, the interesting thing here is that apparently New Zealand, they talked about us, New Zealand, is number 3. What? What? That's crazy. Anyway, the interesting thing that I found here was that Japan was not included on this list. Now, we all know that Japan is balls deep into cryptocurrencies. But I suppose perhaps because Japan is such a big economy, it just makes up a smaller percentage of their GDP. Nevertheless, very, very interesting statistics here. Over in Canada, the Canadians are worried that they will not be able to keep up with the demands of the cryptocurrency mining industry. Now, we've covered a lot of different stories on this channel about how companies like Bitmain, amongst many other different cryptocurrency mining companies, are eyeing up Quebec for its cool climates and cheap hydroelectric power. The Canadians now saying, whoa, guys, we might not be able to handle all these requests. But you want to know who's got a lot of spare energy? Russia! Over in Russia, they are ready for the influx of Bitcoin miners. Cities like Irkutsk and Yakutia have very, very cheap energy and are geographically in a strategic position between Europe and, of course, Asia. So lots of benefits here for Bitcoin miners to get over into Russia and to get set up. Or, if you just want to stick out in the old US, Virginia Beach backs a Bitcoin mine with a $500,000 grant from the government. Whoa, Virginia Beach. You go. Now look, is Virginia Beach the ideal place for a cryptocurrency mine? Not necessarily. The cooler climates are better because you have to spend a bit less on cooling, of course, in that situation. Don't know what the power prices are like in Virginia Beach, but nevertheless, they saw the benefit. They backed it. Very interesting story there. And if you are going to be mining cryptocurrencies on a massive scale, why not use all of that heat to grow some food? This is a very interesting byproduct, of course, of all the cryptocurrency mining, is that these machines get hot. And they do generate quite a bit of heat and noise as well. The noise isn't so useful, what the heat is, and you can use that to warm up a greenhouse, for example. Maybe a big greenhouse. Get your tomatoes and your Bitcoin at the same time. Why not? Now, unfortunately, a bit earlier in the video, I did have a place where the video kind of dropped out and I had to re-record the ending of this, but I have got a $50 worth of Bitcoin already sent off to Clem. He was the winner of the random winner this week. If you want to be in to win next week, $50 worth of Bitcoin, put your address down below and you will be in to win. Long live the blockchain. And peace out till next time, guys.